Good morning, afternoon, or evening. I am Stephanie Joy with All Things Social Security and the attorney at Joy Disability. You're about to see what should be a question and answer format type of chat from our live session on a particular topic that we find that a lot of people keep asking about. So I'm sharing it here. If there are pieces that could have been added that weren't added during the live, because it's a kind of a fast-paced Q&A that we do every Wednesday at 1 p.m. You might just find that I added something to the end of it to give it a little more clarity and a little more details for those that are interested in that particular topic. So check to see if that's at the end. Otherwise, enjoy the video. Bye-bye. Are they still reviewing my medical if I had a past relevant work interview, but portal still says step 3? Yeah. Okay. So it should actually bump to step 4. This is usually a good sign, by the way. If they already had your medical, they've done a lot of the medical, and it's kind of late in the day, and you already sent your work history a long time ago, and they want to know more about that job. I just had this. In fact, I just had in my case that within 2 weeks we went after. I knew it was a good sign. It is very important that you know the questions they're asking, and whatever the reality is of your job, you know how you can't tell every detail about your job. So some people pick the things that are not going to be helpful to the answer in the legal sense because they don't know, but it's truthful. But they just don't know, if there's a million details about your job and you got 2 sentences to answer the lady, what's the chance of you picking out the parts that would the real parts that would make that answer be the one that fits into the puzzle, make you disabled legally? It is nitpicky. So, I had out the blue, had to have a 1 hour, this is where, schedules get crazy, but a 1 hour conversation, it might even been more than an hour, with my client to make sure, because I don't let her talk to him. I said, I'll get you that information. And I even put it on paper and let my person, I put his answers down. As I've said, I ask the questions and I give him suggestions of so when she says this, remember, if you do this, and that would be contrary to this, did you do this? Oh, yes, I did do that. Okay, so good. So and I have him initial. So it's his answers, I prepare the letter, of course, and then we prevailed with a fully favorable onset on initial. But that's where it drives me crazy when work history reports go out from the client. It doesn't happen with us, but for, some law firms won't help you with them. They just want you to do it blindly on your own. And those things matter. The work history report, particularly if you're over 50, matters immensely. It totally affects step 4 in the grid. So it's really important. ENS, I was found fully favorable on May 15th, and now my payment is at the payment center in Baltimore. I was found fully favorable. Yay! Thank you for all the help. You're very welcome, and thank you for sharing that. I love the good news. Fully favorable on May 15th. It's been a few weeks. Good for you. Makes for a better summer, wouldn't you say? That money should be flowing soon. Mikey, you are very welcome. I was gone for 10 minutes, Russ, right? 10 seconds, yeah. Yeah, because I was hustling. I'm like, oh, shoot. I just saw that. Heather says, I apologize if you get multiple incomplete evaluation forms from me. Oh, gosh, did you send some? For some reason, when I go to a different screen to get information, it backs me up and I have to start over. What are you talking about? Did you send something? Was this in the past, maybe? Past. Yeah, I think I did, right? When I go to a different screen, there's only one. I don't know if that's something on your side. It's only one page, one screen. So I don't know. Head. I'm sorry. And it says, was found fully favorable. That's a repeat. Okay. Temple congratulates. Heather says, my denial said they can't prove that I can do my past work. But this is called they expedited through step 4, but I can adapt to new work. Very common, particularly if you're under 50, right, Heather? I don't remember what I put for my past work history requirements or whatever it is they asked. So as you can see, they can kind of, I forget when this rule came about. I think it was under Obama, and I agree with it, because if they're going to deny you on step 5, they don't really have to take all that legwork of doing step 4, attention to your prior work. Because yes or no doesn't matter. The result doesn't matter because they have to go to step 5. And if you can do any other job in the 12,000 jobs in the national or regional economy, you are not disabled. So it is not uncommon for them to, I think they call it expedited. Okay, so we are on step 4 of the sequential evaluation process. Super quick these. You've already been through step 1, step 2. At step 3, you didn't get to win at step 3. You passed the other ones, which you needed to do to get step 3. Step 3, you couldn't win it, so you had to go to step 4. They already determined your residual functional capacity, RFC. You had that assessment by the SSC. And now you are at step 4. This is where they're going to try to find out if you can do your past relevant work. Now, as you may know, past relevant work, it has to be past relevant work. It has to meet 3 tests. We have an ABC video on that. If you look under past relevant work, the playlist, you can find out which of your jobs will count and that you will have to prove that you cannot do. past relevant work is a really big deal. And there is another video on some potential rule changing when it comes to past relevant work that would actually be beneficial to beneficiaries. So I do hope it comes into play. I hope they make the rule change. And there is a video on that too. So just go look under past relevant work and you'll find all that. So they have the RFC, and now they're going to review your past relevant work. They look at the whole job, and they look at your physical and or mental limitations and restrictions, I suppose. Whatever ended up working into that RFC as being limited, and having a reduced capacity. And if any of those capacities that are required for the past relevant work as you performed it, or as it is generally performed in the economy, which makes it a little bit more difficult, because either one of those will mean you can still do it. Even if it's not your job didn't have it that way, but generally that job is performed. That's why it's really important that they categorize your past relevant work under the correct occupation, really. Because if they put it under a different one and then say, well, it's generally performed, it's like this, so she could still do that with that reduced RFC. Maybe she couldn't do the job as she performed it for her employer, but over here for these other employers, she could. It gets a little sticky. If you are able to, if they find that you could do your past relevant work, one of those jobs in your past that fall into the category of past relevant work, not necessarily all jobs, you're going to be found not disabled, unfortunately. However, if they find you can't do your past relevant work because your exertional level is too low, it's lower than what that job is categorized as a for instance, then you will pass step 4 and get the privilege of going to step 5. I say that tongue-in-cheek, privilege. And we will go into step 5. I recently discussed with some people the need to really look at step 5, because a lot of people focus on trying to convince the SSA the truth of the matter that they can't do past relevant work, and they pass step 4. They think that's all they need to do is show they can't do their old job. They don't know that that's not the end of the game, because there are 12,000 occupations out there. So you need to prove you can't do the rest of those either. Capiche? So yeah, step 4 is not the end game, but I see so many people that think it is when they're representing and when they're speaking about their case and they're saying, I can't do my job. I'm like, I get it. But, let's stop talking about that, because that's not what's going to win your case. We need to get on to what's relevant. So look at step 5. You have to pay attention to step 5. Alrighty, that is step 4 for you. I'll see you around the corner at step 5. Bye now. Good morning. Okay, so we're talking about the sequential evaluation process for adults when you have a Social Security disability or SSI claim. Now, you are either perhaps have just watched one of the individual segments on one of the 5 steps, and this will be an overview of what all 5 steps are, just so you know at what place you're in. You're just coming here for the first time, and you are just going to learn right here what the 5 steps are without the details attached to them. So I will try to connect all the other ones to this, so if you need to pop to number 3 and find more details about it, you can, or 4 or 5 or 1 or 2. Okay, so this is just going to be the rundown of the 5 steps and their names and what they are. Super quick. Okay, so when you first file a claim, the first step that the SSA has to determine is, are you working SGA? If you are working SGA, and that's a term of art, there are playlists on this channel about SGA. If you are not disabled. They stop and your case is over. You lose. If you are not performing SGA, the work level of SGA, so this would include people who have stopped working altogether, of course, you get to go to step 2. Step 2 is, do you have a severe medically determinable impairment? One could think of that as a severe diagnosis, perhaps, although I'm sure it's not exactly that, but an MDI would have to be diagnosed, and it has to be diagnosed in the medically acceptable manner. And all of that is through your medical records. So that's where all the medical boom, boom, boom treatment is really important to get to that point. If you do not have a severe medically determinable impairment, even if you have medically determinable impairments, because who doesn't at least have small ones? If you do not have a severe one, just one, you will be denied. Stop, you're out the door, the case is over. If you do have at least one severe MDI, you get to go to step 3. Step 3 looks at your severe MDI and all your other MDIs, severe and non-severe, although it would be a severe one that would have to lend itself to a yes here. Does it meet or equal a listing? They're referring to the Blue Book listings. You can find them at ssa.gov. And if it meets the details within the description of that listing, of that kind of impairment, you will, if yes, be found disabled at step 3. Game over. You're done in terms of you just won the hardest battle of proving that you are medically disabled. Then they would go on to anything non-medical, like, well, did you even have the insurance? Or if it's SSI, are you poor enough? That's at a different office. But the big hard battle that everyone fights sometimes for years on just ended for you if you meet or equal a listing at step 3. Step 4, you go to step 4 if you're not found disabled at step 3. So that's a little switch, right? If you do not meet a listing, before they go to step 4, they're going to find out what your RFC is. What is your residual functional capacity to work? And that is a whole term of art, and the details are pretty complicated. You go on to step 4 with that RFC assessment in hand, and the question is, can that person, despite those limitations, given his RFC assessment, is there other work? Can he do his past relevant work? Past relevant work is a term of art also. It's got some tests that it has to meet to be considered past relevant work. So you might want to look up that playlist for that. If he can do his prior relevant work, any of those jobs that fall within that category, not disabled. Boom, end of story. Your case loses at step 4. If step 4 finds it, can't do his past relevant work, that is a little too arduous in one way or another, then you get the privilege of going to step 5. Step 5 is there any other work in the national or regional economy that this person can do? Work that exists in substantial numbers. If there is other work you can do of sufficient numbers, certain occupations, you are not disabled. You lose at step 5. That is a very common place to lose, as is step 4. If you cannot do any other work, they can't provide, and that burden is on them at this point, any other jobs you can do in sufficient numbers, then yes, you are disabled and you win at step 5. Okay, more details on 1 through 5. See at the end. I'll put up a button for number 1. From number one, you can see buttons for number 2. From 2, you can see a button for number 3. So they will go in sequential. If at the end you click on the button that should be in the upper corner there. Yeah, I think that's the only way I can really do it, but I hope it helps. All right. And if you have any questions, just leave them in comments and we'll talk about it later. All right. Bye.